Hello and happy 4th of July 2022. I just had this idea to make this um, video today, and I've been offline for a while. I went to a wonderful conference and came back not feeling well. I thought I had dodged that massive bullet that everyone has dealt with for 2.5 years, and it got me. And it's the first time I had flown in a couple of years, and everything's packed and the airports are packed. And anyway, here I am on this Independence Day. And yesterday, I had an aha moment because I went and attended a unity service down in West Palm Beach, and the regular minister was not there. I've only been there a couple of times, but I think I was meant to be there so that I can share with you something that really hit me strong. And maybe it will help you as well. Here we are with the 4th of July, Independence Day. And then the last couple of months, we've had some real challenges with independence. Some rulings have come down that have really challenged the independence of everyone, but especially women. And I feel that more is coming. And I'm confused. I have loved this country, our freedom, our democracy, our independence. And so this wonderful minister talked about our own Declaration of Independence. I was like, what? My own Declaration of Independence? And I thought how important that is today, more than any other time in history that I've been alive, I feel, because we are all faced with so many things. So I wanted to give you some tips on how to get started doing that. And I'm working through mine. And I've also started this community called Own Your Life. And it is based on some of those things. It's we get dragged along in life. We pick up many values and things from being a child. So we didn't really make a decision. Am I aligned with that? Does that serve me? Many times behaviors that we picked up that are innate in our subconscious actually were survival tactics of a child that was not even verbal yet. You knew that if you needed to get your needs met, if you needed to be changed, if you needed to eat, you found certain ways in your family to function, to learn. And then we base our lives on that, or we base our lives on a culture in our family. And let's face it, many people have not had the best of childhoods. The more I'm in support groups, the more I'm in other communities and tribes, I hear so many stories. And I know the obstacles that I've had. And we take those on and we think that's the way we're supposed to think. But I've been through some horrific things. Been through a very traumatic divorce. I was very committed to our marriage, and I never could have imagined the situation that arose from that. There's estrangement, there's parental alienation, there's a loss of a child, there's suicide. I've been through a lot of things, and I'm still going through a lot of things. However, I get to own my life. I get to still feel joy. I get to still be happy, but it's a choice. It's easy to be a victim. It's easy to get pummeled along. And I'm 68 years old right now. I don't know how many years I have. And I thought, I want to make the most of them. What do I really want? Because we get stuck. We get into obligation. We get into fear. Fear is one of the biggest factors. I have to stay in this job. I have to keep this house. I have to try to get along with all of these people. And I'm here to tell you that that's not living. That's not living your life. So what is your Declaration of Independence? Because a light bulb went on for me when someone shared Brene Brown with me. And one of the first things I read in one of her books is, first of all, you belong to you. And I realized how much of my life I spent supporting other people's goals, supporting people in my family. I wanted to be a good mom. I wanted to take care of things. I wanted to be a team player, but my goals never seemed to get met. I was always sacrificing. And then you get in patterns you don't even realize that you're just going along, or you lose your dreams, you lose yourself. I know for me, I gave up myself. That's my part of it. We always own some part of a situation. And I easily gave myself up. And again, going back to childhood, I was in a very controlling situation, and I would give things up because I had to negotiate the conflict, and it wasn't worth fighting for certain things. And so I would just give up because I was being blocked. And I've had this image of of really my family, and they don't know that they do it, I'm sure, but it's very detrimental. And I viewed myself like a hurdler, and it took me a long time before I saw the pattern of this, because it was better to keep my dreams quiet and quietly go about achieving them than to voice them, because I would be blocked. I don't know why, and it's their subconscious things, but I realized if I say what I need or want, I will get consequences or blocked from achieving that. And as I said, I don't think they realize they do that. But my vision was being like a hurdler. You know, you're running on the track. Now you've got to jump over this, and another hurdle's put in front of you. I want to go and I want to achieve this, and another hurdle's put in front of you. And so I felt like I was an Olympic hurdler, really and truly. And I still feel like I am. Or I'd have to find a way around the hurdle if I couldn't jump it. And so I become very good at pivoting, which has served me well in this time. But, I'm tired. And I also realized that I was just going along in the stream, in the currents. What was I obligated to do? It takes a lot of work to stand up for your values. It takes a lot of work and understanding to set boundaries. However, some of those very controlling and narcissistic people, it's so easy for them. They just declare their boundaries all of the time. I remember when I was doing some of this work, so many people become very codependent because they want to please, they want happiness. And oftentimes you draw a very controlling person because they're drawn to somebody that will compromise and support them and put them first. And the dynamics really become very, very complicated. And it's hard if you're a codependent type of person to pull away and say, no, I don't want that. No, I'm not going to agree with that, because the backlash, we're seeing it in our politics. Look how many of people, grown people with degrees and global experience, are afraid to come forth and even tell the truth. Anyway, so first of all, we belong to ourselves. So if you do this declaration of independence, what are your non-negotiables? What are the things that you're willing to compromise, but what do you stand for? Because what I have learned too is when you stand for something and you stand up for something, people know your boundaries. They know what to expect from you. It actually leads to better relationships. And the first relationship is to yourself. And I've had to give up some very big relationships and create some sadness. And it takes a lot of courage, but being treated or spoken to or falling into the trap with certain people is just not worth it. And we're seeing more and more posts, get the toxic people out of your life. And those may be family members. They may be old friends of yours. And there's seasons of life, and you can look at different years. Is this person holding me back? Is this person supportive of me? Do I want them still in my life? Or they an acquaintance that, when something great's happening, they show up, or only when they need something do they show up? So you can have an inner circle, and then you can start looking at things, and you can put people at a different level, just like in a corporation. Who's my inner circle, and who are the VPs, who are the worker bees, who are the ones that I just have a very casual relationship. Pay attention to who you're spending your time with, because we are, we say the 5 people that we hang around with, and so what is the order of things? What is your priorities? Is it your health? Is it your job? Is it your family? Really put your 5 priorities down. Is it your spiritual life? What really comes first with you? When you have identified that, it makes a better declaration of your own independence, because it's easier to say, no, that doesn't fit with me. Or I'm already maxed out for this year. Maybe I can put that in next year. I'm up to my max. in what I can achieve or what I can do. I mean, let's face it, that happens in the workplace. And it's easy to take on and do for others because sometimes it's easier to do it for them to help them do it themselves. Again, your career, your work. We've seen so much diversity happen through this pandemic. So many people and young people are finding creative ways to earn a living. They're also finding creative ways to live in their lifestyle. So many are not even buying cars. We see so many scooters and skateboards and Ubers and bicycles, communal bicycles. There's so many alternatives. And a lot of our youth are not wanting to max out everything for all this stuff. You know, when it comes again to relationships and what brings you joy. I struggle with this. I feel joy, but I'll feel guilty taking the time. I just started working with orchids and learning more about orchids and going out and taking care of them and wanting to do some creative things and some art things. But it brings me so much joy. And you know what will happen? I will end up wasting my time going, okay, I should make another video. I need to learn how to edit my YouTube videos, or this article needs to be done, or I really want to do my newsletter. And so I end up just spiraling, wasting my time, where if I had set an hour and a half to go do an art project, to go ride my bicycle, I would come back refreshed, feel good, but there's some trailing thing. And I know it's from childhood. You're not allowed to have fun. You always have to be task oriented. We don't take time to do that, to laugh, to have fun. That was not the culture of my family. And, you know, they came from the Depression area and came as immigrants from, like, look what's happening in the Ukraine now. Well, my family came from Poland, and my grandparents were put on boats as teens and sent away for a better life. And so they filter those things down. There was a lot of hardship. There was a lot of pain. So they're more comfortable in pain because that's so much more familiar. So that's just an example of how you take on ancestral things of how you're supposed to behave, and you're not even choosing it for yourself. We live in a day and age where we get to do that. Where is your stance on abortion? What would you be willing to do if you were in that situation, or your daughter was in that situation, or son or grandchild? Would you go somewhere different? When I was in college, you couldn't get birth control. I went with a roommate to a very seedy area of town because she wanted to get birth control. We had to sneak around and go on a bus. It was really scary. We're 18 years old. And I went with her because she was too afraid to go by herself. And then if you wanted an abortion, you had to fly to New York. You had to fly somewhere because it wasn't available. And there's so many circumstances that are tricky. But if you leave the door open, people have a choice. I don't believe in this. I will not do this. There was an incredible story on CBS Sunday Morning yesterday. I love that show. It's my favorite show. It's usually inspiring, and it's also creative, the different pieces that they had. And I'm going to post it underneath here after, but they had the hostess from Romper Room. I watched that show when I was 5 years old. I was like, oh my gosh, no one talks about Romper Room. And here was this young teacher that already had 4 children. And her situation really became, I'm not going to spoil it because her story is so amazing. And she ended up being at the very cusp of bringing out the situation with abortion, not wanting to do that, not pushing a situation. Her story is so loving and kind and so real, and it spurred a movement. She didn't mean to do that. And she went on and even had 2 more children. Her story is fascinating. This wonderful, beautiful person. And she's 90 today, looks gorgeous, and just speaks so intelligently. And I'm a Libra. She's talking about both sides of the coin and how she got thrust into this situation. She was penalized for making a decision that was put in front of her by accident, and then went on to have children and was penalized for having more children. This woman loved children. She was the Romper Room teacher. We have to look at those things. These decisions really impact people's lives in such acute ways. What about your personal growth? I'm not the same person I was 20 years ago. I've done a lot of work. I've chosen to do that work, and I've chosen who to follow. Because at first, I was so used to having controlling people in my life. I was taught everybody else is right and I'm wrong, and you're not worthy and you don't know. And it was just always follow somebody else. If I had a success, and I had a lot of successes, I was a cheerleader, I was on National Honor Society, I was part of student council. I wasn't this wimpy kid, but in front of me, it was like, oh, she does this. Oh, they're doing that. And I read it, you're not good enough. What you chose to do is not enough. I got penalized. I could have gotten a National Merit Scholarship, but my parents wouldn't even want to fill out the paperwork. They didn't want anyone knowing their business. Those things happen in setting goals. Sometimes when something is taken away from you, you're not allowed. There can be little tiny things in your psyche and your subconscious that block you from going forward to other things. So doing personal growth work by other people helping you and other programs is really valuable, because so many times we think this is what I want, when in truth, that isn't what you want. It's what you know. It's what you're comfortable with. It's what you think the norm is. I remember talking with my mother a number of times, and I think that her childhood was very different. I think she really wanted to fit in. Her mother had come from another country. It was the Bronx. Everybody was in their ethnic. The Italians were here, the Irish were here, the Polish were here, and it was very segregated. Everyone knew each other's cultures, but there was this, I'm sure, because everyone left their homelands, this mitigation of we do this way. And I think that she didn't, people made fun of Polish people. I grew up with that, Polish jokes. And that was one thing that my family sort of taught, like being so proud to be Polish, which I'm so proud now with all the situation. And we have Ukrainian friends, and those borders changed a lot, and the cultures are very similar. But it was like wanting to fit in, and that people do not like you. I realized that a couple of years ago, feeling uncertain, maybe in groups, and not understanding how to belong. And I thought, wow, I was always taught they're making fun of you because of this. They don't like you because of your last name. They don't like you because of this. They don't like you because of that. And I realized things get, pummeled into your head, and you think you're thinking different, or that's not so. However, I realized, gosh, I had this assumption that I have to prove myself, or people aren't going to like me unless I'm like this or like that. I mean, that's something true to me. What are the things true to you? There's so many different factors that play in. And when we become our shadow self and we watch, and this is a wonderful skill to develop, it doesn't happen overnight. And I really want to suggest to you to read the 4 Agreements. And that helps you, because you can view everything. And when you start learning how to view everything as a neutral event. So why did I think that? Is it really my thought? Is that really my declaration of who I want to be? We get to be independent. We're so lucky in our country that we can, for now anyway. So we have to be really careful. So create, I think, is vital right now, because there's so much polarity, and it's scary to sometimes make your opinion misknown, because so many people are so cult-like and so staunch in their ideas that people don't want to come forth because of the ramifications to their family, rejection. And so it's really putting a huge damper on who you are and what you might stand for. But at least create this document for you. It gives you a litmus test. Does that fit? Oh my gosh, it doesn't. I don't have to do that. Somebody else can do that. And also things can change. Things I wanted last year to do and the impacts I wanted to make or what I wanted to create are changing. And so I get to make a new declaration. And that really couples with intention. I love being an entrepreneur. I want freedom in my life. I want to be able to spend my time where I want to spend my time. And that's not to say, here I am on 4th of July making this, and I'm working today because I'm inspired. And I also had some time off from feeling not my best and spending time healing my body. And so I have things that I want to do and take care of that are time sensitive and some exciting things. What are your political views? Who influences you? Who do you want to be with? Do these people add to your life or subtract from your life? You get to be you. If people I would always put self in situations where I would get hurt or be the sacrificial lamb or the scapegoat because it's like, I can take it. I'd rather you not be hurt because I can take it. And I'm not okay with that now. But you have to be willing to stay in that place where you're not this and you're not that yet. You're sort of in limbo. You're hovering. You're letting go of your old ways or your old beliefs or your old values. And I suggest that you do this one or two at a time before you become the new you and those new beliefs or habits feel comfortable. It takes time for them to feel comfortable because the other ones are so ingrained and it's so easy to go back to what's comfortable. But the joy and the living occurs in the uncomfortable. So I urge you to get uncomfortable. Make a massive declaration of independence. We need you. We need independent thinkers right now because things are changing so rapidly. Our climate, cars, electric, how we live our lives, our health, what we're finding out now in health is just incredible new paradigms of what the body can do and our genes can do and what our mind does for our body. We are one. So make your declaration. If you need help, reach out to me and I've created a form of some questions and some areas to look at. Thank you so much for listening to me. Please be independent. I'll share a little gem with you. It's about finding out about yourself. And I realize sometimes this is a great thing. And sometimes I think this holds me back, but I don't want to be like other people. And I started to talk about my mom because she's always talking about they. Well, they always do this. Well, they always like this. And they all go here. And they, because for her, feeling rejected maybe in childhood, she wanted to be like Americans or like the other people around her and fit in. And so her they, one day I told her, I go, but your they is different than my they. I don't know your they. And as soon as something becomes something everybody wants, I don't want it. It comes, except for Kate Spade. I do still follow her handbags, and poor Kate Spade, I just feel such a bond with her. But I remember even in high school, everyone has the Coach bag or everyone has these certain shoes. And I see that, the masses and branding, which is exciting, but as soon as everybody has something that looks all the same, I don't want it. But then I see sometimes in groups where everyone is sharing and it's a consistent thing, I pull away because it's too groupy for me. I've always been in a number of different groups, but it's not always easy to navigate that. But recently I realized, because I get bored then, everybody's doing this. Okay, following along. I have this rebellious streak. And so looking at yourself and what is your declaration of independence? So mine is, I can't be just so plugged into groups. And I did have social circles in high school, but you know what? I navigated with these people and math people. And I've always been more interdisciplinary. So to feel pegged in something makes me feel claustrophobic. And yet the high cost of that is not always fully belonging and playing out with your tribe. So it's helped me in some ways and it's hurt me in some ways, but I'm aware of it and I can choose and I can look at it and say, okay, that is just my ego or my barometer working to protect me. You know, our ego is there to protect us. So many times it shuts us down instead of pulling us. So wait, don't do that. That's scary. You don't know how to do that. Remember that one time? You know, I've met people that in their childhood were in the ocean and had a bad experience and they never swam the whole rest of their life. I met someone, they thought they got sick from a water fountain. So for 20 years, they've never drank out of another water fountain. You know, we take on these limiting beliefs and they limit us in many ways. And as you age, if that's your way of thinking, you know, and much of that comes from having an unsafe childhood. I better protect me. I better protect my family. This happened in this situation, so I need to remember it so I don't do that again. But it might not be the same situation, and you've limited yourself. And as your life goes, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. I want my life to be expansive. And I have a background in early childhood education. And the reason I'm drawn to young children is because their minds are open. They've not been programmed. I want them as early as possible because they are free. They're not judging all of this stuff. And then you see it damping down by the nose, by the parents, by the teachers, by relatives, by church, by all kinds of things. But they're free and they're open. And I want them to get absorbed in as much as they can, as soon as they can, because those years determine, as I'm speaking, sort of your MO and who you are and the essence of how you operate. But you can change. So when you sit down and you want to say, I'm running a Declaration of Independence, our times have changed. Everything's changed. This is a great time to look at yourself and say, I don't have to be this anymore. Or I want this. I still stand for this. And I will fight for this. Whatever you want to be. And I know I got very passionate and long-winded, but you can see on this day, that's what really means to me. Independence. Our country allows us to have independence. There are fewer and fewer countries in the world allowing that. So be that. Please be that. And please preserve that in our country. Because once it's lost, I don't know that we can get it back. And we are considered the democratic experiment. Experiment, because it is so delicate. And countries have not achieved that. But we've been spoiled by that. I don't want somebody telling me what to do. Look at the women rising up. This is the divine feminine time. Women are not going to stand for going backwards. And I love that men are standing up too, because it impacts them and their decisions. And that's a whole nother topic. So please write your Declaration of Independence and put down in the comments if you actually did one. And if you want to share it, I would love to hear it. And so this is Barbara Gertina, part of Own Your Life and Wellness Matters, You Matter. And those are the two areas that I am really passionate about. And they fit together because you do matter and your health and your well-being are connected. Happy 4th of July. And who knows what it's going to be like next year, but you have your independence. Bye now.